reconvene. You can stretch your legs, get a glass of water or tea or anything else you prefer. And we will start our advisory council meeting at 3 o'clock. Okay. Thank you again to all the students. You guys were very patient. Thank you for all the industry sponsors for also being equally patient and working under these times, which is been so difficult. I'm sure to you guys too. And thanks for your dedication. So we'll get back again at 3 o'clock. I wish I had some music to play.
To play Final Jeopardy, Rudy.
Well, Jeopardy, now you lost a guy.
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
Okay, how are you? Hey, thanks for coming in.
Hey, no problem. So what's the schedule now? We'll have this break until 3. What time is it there?
3 o'clock.
3,
Yeah.
and then we have the next set is the breakout.
Yeah. Let me. Can you see my screen right now, or
Yeah, I can.
which
I can
shows
see
SEC
you.
meeting?
Let's see.
No, it doesn't. So
Let's see. No, I mean I see you. I don't see the screen. I think you have to share the screen.
yeah. So let me just share the screen. This is what I was gonna
I hate
go through
Zoom.
the agenda. Where am I?
I know it's
Too many
complicated.
things to play around with. There we go.
I think they
Did
keep
you
changing.
didn't need me for anything, did you? I heard talking and I quick put my headphones back on.
Yeah. Can you see the screen? I have the meeting agenda.
I saw it before.
Yeah,
Now it's
before
gone.
you before this, the image you had before was like you were opening it up from an email and like your whole computer, like all your tabs and stuff that were showing was kind of overriding it.
What am I doing wrong then? So share screen. Can you see this? It's different?
It's your Google Drive.
Yeah,
your
okay,
whole-
good. All right. So if I do this,
Nah, it doesn't work that way. I think you have to unshare and you have to actually open up the document and
Oh,
then share. Because
okay.
I discovered that in a meeting with you. The minute I tried to click around, it wasn't doing anything.
Okay, so now you don't see it, you just see the screen, the faces, right?
Yep.
So you're saying I need to go on Google Drive and individually open that?
Yeah. Open the agenda. So it's like takes up your screen and then reshare.
Yeah, but right now, see, I'm out of this. Okay, it's now share screen. You can see it now, agenda?
Yes, it's cut off, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
okay,
not
that's
like
fine.
yeah.
Go down.
There you go.
Now we need to change that. Now I thought I could edit this. I can't edit this, huh?
I don't know what you're in. I think you're in Google Drive. I did that in Word, and then
Yeah, but
you
Google
saved
Drive
it.
should allow me to change that, right? It's a Word document.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah. You should be.
So
It's not locked. You should be able to change it.
I can't type in there.
Yeah, I don't. I hate Google Drive. This is why I don't use it. I thought you had to open it back up out in because it's not like you're opening. I don't know.
So let me
I think
try this.
yeah, open it up in Word and try it. Okay, I have to step away till 3, so well, close to 3. I'll be right back.
All right, this is a PDF. Okay, shall we get started?
Hello, Rudy. How are you?
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good, thanks.
All right, so you were able to fill out the forms, Jim and Al?
Yes, I finished mine and it disappeared quickly after I hit the last one, submit. So I'm hoping Susan got it.
Oh, yeah, now, you know, the Google form, you know, in a way, it's really good. It just, you don't have to email anything. It goes on Google Drive.
I'll check it out and see if it's there.
Hi, Rudy. Scott's on. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Great, great. Yeah, the
Shashir, how
Google
are
Forms were
you?
great. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining, Shashir. You're in a totally different time zone, right?
Yeah, it's around 1:30 a.m. in morning.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a wow.
We had a student who was joined briefly, and he was in Iran doing these remote classes, and he was in a one-bedroom apartment with his kids. It was very difficult for the poor guy. I think he dropped out. All right. Let's see. Susan, do we have let's see, we have 13 people. Either some people dropped out or are still wandering back in. All right. Again, for those of you who have not attended these meetings before, at the end of our project symposium, we have a meeting and we cover a few agenda items. And this time around, we've got a few things to cover. First of all, I want to introduce Horace Davis from Con Ed, who has joined our advisory council. And he will be replacing Tony McFadden, who's been a member since, gosh, even before I joined. And so Horace, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Not at all, not at all. Good afternoon, everyone. Name, as he mentioned, is Horace Davis. Interesting fact is I'm somewhat connected with the Lehigh Valley. I played football and was on a team that participated in the most played rivalry in the country. And it's not Lehigh, so you can guess that I'm a Lafayette graduate. So I graduated from Lafayette in 1988 with a mechanical engineering degree. And I worked with Philadelphia Electric for a brief period of time before coming to Con Edison. And in 1990, started with Con Edison, went through their internship program. I've spent time in the electric distribution side of the business. Being a mechanical engineer, I always wanted to experience what an actual boiler was and not just a box up on a screen. So I had the opportunity to work at one of our steam generating plants, West 59th Street Generating Station. And so I took advantage of that opportunity, worked there as a shift supervisor, running that plant for about 4 years. And after that, had the opportunity to work as a senior system operator in the operations and the transmission end of the business at Con Edison. Post that position, went back to electric operations. After electric operations, spent some time working in our environment, health, and safety department, where I was director of remediation. So basically had oversight of the company's response to our manufactured gas plants, various other subsurface contamination caused by our historic operations and required to be addressed, whether through EPA or the DEC here in New York. And currently, I am the general manager in central engineering, responsible for quality assurance engineering and program support, which in a nutshell is you have the discipline and the real engineering and then everything else. And that's what I'm responsible for, sort of the connective tissue between the various departments within central engineering. And that is just a bit of an overview. Really excited about this opportunity. Just listening to the presentation from the students, it's an opportunity to just learn and understand some of the challenges that we face as an industry, but also identifying some of the opportunities and the direction that we're going, how we're starting to solve some problems, and just, leveraging what collectively we have to provide direction to the students. Being a student at one time, I think it's just really great. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity to learn and at the same time to grow and contribute to the students and to this advisory council. So thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Horace. And Horace replaces Tony, and Tony has been a fixture on our advisory council for many years. And one thing Tony promised us that we haven't taken up on, and Scott Thomas actually expedited this, was to have a set of lectures from Con Ed engineers. We planned to have it at the end of last semester, just when the COVID virus hit the entire nation. And we had to postpone it, Horace. And so we'll hopefully pick it up, the set of Con Ed lectures next spring, this coming spring. And we have the flyers and everything else printed out. So it'll be really great to have you guys present your lectures. There were 4 or 5 Con Ed engineers who volunteered for a period for like 2 or 3 hours. It'd be during Scott's transmission and distribution class. So hopefully we can schedule it at a good time next spring, this coming spring.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to do that. Lots of great things happening, even in terms of just our approach and the challenges that we face with COVID and overcoming, continuing to do the work. One of the things that is interesting is when we pull the trigger on remote work, this is going back and remember the date, it really was March 12th and 13th. So the entire central engineering staff has been working remotely and supporting operations since then. And it looks as if we'll probably continue into July of 2021 working remotely. So I think that presentation in of itself might be a good opportunity to talk about how the company has responded to COVID and some of the challenges that we've had to face, not the thing that you kind of planned for, but you've reacted to. And I think, we'll get back at some point to some new normal. It'll never be the same as it was before, especially recognizing the opportunities to work and be effective outside of the office environment. But looking forward to that, and I'm sure we've got plenty to support some of the things that we're doing.
So I just thought we'll do a quick introductions, starting from myself. For those of you who haven't attended this before, nor do you know who the people are, you can just state your name and your organization. And so I'll start by myself, Rudy Shankar. I'm the director of the Energy Systems Program. Susan? Susan?
On mute.
Oh. Okay, go ahead. David, I see you on my screen. David Turner.
Sure. This is Dave Turner. I'm from Tangent Energy. Horace, nice to meet you. I just sent you a message. I played football at Lafayette as well and worked at Pico when I started my career.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Very good.
Yes.
What year were
That's
you
it.
at Lafayette?
I graduated in 1981. I'm a bit older than you.
Oh, really? So you played with Green,
What's that?
Tony Green?
Yes. Tony Green was
Yeah.
in 82, I think, maybe 83.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes. It was long ago. And I was at Pico from 81 to 98 or 2000.
Nice. I worked out of Morton,
Okay. I was
Delaware.
Northfield, Orland, Newtown, and I ended my career at InfoSource.
All right. I was sorry, gentlemen. We won't, but this Lafayette thing, once it happens,
That's
we
it.
won't reject it.
I may be run out of town for treason or something like that, but nevertheless. So Scott, if you need to introduce yourself, Scott.
Yep, sure. Sorry, I'm just trying to get off mute. I'm Scott Thomas. I'm the PPL testing and commissioning supervisor for pretty much any kind of bulk power equipment that's put into service on our grid. I also teach the transmission, distribution, and smart grid course in the spring semester. I'm really looking forward to that. In addition to that, I'm also a graduate of the program. I was actually in the inaugural class back in 2010. So I've been really had the pleasure of being involved in not only the program, but also, the development of the program over the years. So just excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Shishir?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Shishir Upadhyay, and I represent Lehigh University in South Asia. So I'm here and I am trying to interact with not only the student, but also the different university who's working in the space of energy systems. Everything is thrown out of the way we have done things till now and the way we were planning to do this year. But yeah, things are coming back to normal at a very slow pace. But yes, I think I'm very hopeful in due course of time, we will see more Indian participation in this particular program, and not only from the student perspective, but also from the corporate perspective, as well as the partnership with different universities in India. So looking forward to be part of this group in coming years, as well as expand its mandate in India also.
Thank you, Shishir. And Shishir has been a great help. We've had seminars remotely to Indian students, and he comes to Lehigh. Well, at least he used to come to Lehigh ever so, infrequently. But I don't know when the next trip is going to be. Shishir, we look forward to seeing you here.
Same here, please.
Al?
Al Rotz. I've been associated with this program since its inception, I believe, when Andy started it. I worked at PPL for 40 years, retired in 2010, at which point I became president of the IEEE Power and Energy Society for 2 years. I've migrated through a number of positions in IEEE, including the board of directors, and I'm currently running a search process to replace the Power and Energy Society executive director, who unfortunately passed away back in late August. So I have worked with Rudy and his predecessors over the years to bring in distinguished lecturers from different IEEE societies over the years. And Rudy, I'm not sure I've told you yet, we're planning to line up John McDonald again next spring. So we'll certainly loop you guys in when we final those arrangements.
Thank you. James? Jim?
Yeah, Jim Gallagher. I live in Saratoga Springs, New York. I've been in the energy business for a long time, since late 70s. Spent 21 years at the New York Public Service Commission, where for the last 5 of those years, I was director of the Office of Electricity. I left that. I then was director of energy policy for the city of New York for a number of years under Mayor Bloomberg. Most recently, I was executive director of an organization called the New York State Smart Grid Consortium. It was public-private partnership, universities, utilities, and like, and also teaching a course at Clarkson University on energy regulation. Lastly, I just want to point out that I played football at Lehigh 10 years ago. So it's nice to have this new tension on the advisory group.
All right, look, at least there's one Lehigh football player. Let's see if
Yeah.
there's another one somewhere lurking.
We were finally poised to win one last week and we couldn't play.
We went 4-0. We went 4-0 against you guys.
Okay, you didn't lose.
I don't doubt that.
Let's see, on my screen, I see John Matranga. Yeah.
Sure, thanks, Rudy. I'm John Matranga, Director of Business Incubation and Acceleration at OSIsoft. We make the PI system. I almost went to Clarkson, but instead I went to Lehigh and graduated in '87. And I'm out here in California now at our headquarters and been involved with the program here for a number of years, backed a number of research projects that have worked well. I also sit on Dean DeWert's advisory council and participate in that. And so great to see a lot of our customers here on the screen. And lately I've been doing a lot of work in distributed energy resources and working with our customers in that area.
Thank you, John. Let's see, Jim Robinson.
Yes, excuse me. I'm Jim Robinson, formerly of PPL, back in the late 1970s, graduated from Lehigh with a master's in power systems. I spent about 12 years in PPL operations, starting as an operations coordinator, and then became a supervisor of system daily planning, system operation daily planning. It's also briefly a software manager for all SCADA and advanced contingency applications for about 4 years. And then I went back to transmission asset manager at PPL for several years when I retired in 2008 and have been on the strategic advisory board about the time Martha Dodge joined the program. So I've enjoyed being on the board very much. I did consulting starting in 2008. I worked 4 years as a contractor for North American Electric Reliability Corp, primarily in transmission asset management and working with them on data collection of performance of transmission systems. I also worked as a consultant for Arizona Public Service and PPL Electric Utilities briefly. I finally retired from the business in 2015, but I'm glad to be here, and I was very glad to hear a lot of the variety of topics we had today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Hey, Dan, I see you next on my screen. Dan Chapley. You have to unmute yourself. That's you know, if you do Zoom often enough, you unmute yourself is a phrase you use a lot. While we're waiting for Dan, Alberto, you're on the screen.
Yeah, I was unmuting. Hi, everybody. My name is Alberto Colombo, and I am a founder at the Ernest Soft, one of the industrial partners in the presentation before. We are based in California, even if I'm actually quarantined in my house because I was back to Italy for the holidays, and you know, it's a forced 14 days quarantine, so I'm working full time from here. So nice to be here.
Thank you. I see Tony McFadden on my screen next.
Yeah, Horace, I did hear your introduction. I actually went from my laptop to my iPhone, and I couldn't get it off mute to respond. We had a potential transformer failure at Dunwoody, and that's why, Horace, I'm sure you're aware of that probably. But I just want to mention, yeah, we still do plan to do the technical forum at Con Edison, or virtually actually. We did lose one person to retirement, but as Horace mentioned, we do have some pretty significant and interesting subject matters to talk about, including actually engineering and designing a switching station in Brooklyn, $145 million virtually. So that's, I think you may find that pretty interesting how we did it, actually working remotely for the most part and responding to emergency failures remotely also. So those type of topics, we might want to include those within our technical forum. But I'm just happy that we're able to include Horace on the SAC Council. When I spoke to Horace about it, the only apprehension we had, I think Horace mentioned to me, would it be okay because he went to the different school, Lafayette. But I told him that he would be well received in the committee despite that. So I'm happy that he's going to take the lead going forward. I'm available to assist in any way that I can in the future. And I do look forward to possibly attending future SAC meetings, as well as helping to develop these type of technical presentations for everyone. And once we do get back to somewhat of a normal situation, obviously we'll be more than happy to invite you back to Con Edison for a nice day of activities.
Thank you, Tony. I see Nick.
Hi, this is Nick Mart here. I'm a senior engineer with the PICO R&D group. Unfortunately, Eric Stein, who usually represents PICO, is unable to make it here today. He's on a meeting with DOE. So I'm just filling in for him. Like I said, new with the R&D group, so hoping to see, get more involved and see what I can help out with.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming, Nick. Nice to make your acquaintance. Andrew?
Hi, this is Andrew Coleman from EPRI. So just want to compliment you, Rudy, I really enjoyed listening to all the presentations today. They were pretty good. And looks like a lot of learning has been going on this semester, despite everybody being at home. I know those challenges. So just for everybody's sake, I'm out in California, now severely locked down. They now have a curfew on everyone here. So now you can't even go out after 10 o'clock, supposedly. But I think what I really want to impress upon, like the Activities Council going forward, and I know I've spoken to Horace about this and Tony, and we had a really good discussion. We outlined a couple of very big things that we wanted to achieve, and I'm not going to drone upon them. I'm not going to just go through them, but just some of the highlights we discussed. We wanted to interject for this council and also for the program in large, diversity and equity. And then I think what we need to talk about too is, which direction our business is going in. There's so many things that have happened over the past year that have given us time to reflect upon, like, decarbonization and electrification, hear the word resiliency. And we also hear about some of the challenges that we're dealing with in local levels, like flexible load capacity issues. And there's just a host of crazy stuff going on that would have never been focused on if we were heading down the old pathway, but now we're on a completely different pathway that was just going to change everybody's using experience with electricity. And that's going to be through policy, and it's going to be through how we work. So I hope that we can get focused a little to help try and spearhead a direction going forward for Lehigh, because I know that the challenges are different for every utility also. And I know that they're looking to hire the next generation to, assume these roles. So I hope that we have those discussions going forward, and that's what I'm really interested in helping with. So thanks a lot, Rudy.
Thank you. Let's see, I have Larry. Larry?
Here.
Okay. You don't mind
Thanks,
introducing
Rudy.
yourself? Okay.
Yes, I'll tell a brief secret about Rudy. He and I sit on the board of the Sustainable Energy Fund, which is the Act 129 spinoff created to create mechanisms for renewables and efficiencies. Just finished opening its net zero energy headquarters up in the northern part of the Lehigh Valley. But we also were industrial partner for a capstone project this year, and our project will continue into next year. And we have hired several from the Lehigh Energy Systems Engineering program. So are happy for you to be educating tomorrow's leaders in this field. I serve as managing principal of the Stonehouse Group, which is a 20-year-old consulting company that focuses on building stewardship, which we define as climate action plans, commissioning, energy audits, financial studies, project management, mostly for not-for-profits. And we, in our journey to practice what we preach, have done a pretty good job of making our building in South Bethlehem about as energy efficient as it can come. That's not a challenge to come look at the things we haven't done, but we've done the big things pretty nicely.
Thank you, Larry. And I think in the last 3 months, I've met Larry quite a number of times now. And I've learned so much from him. So thank you for attending today.
Thanks for allowing me to be invited guests, Rudy.
Well, that may be, you take, everybody takes one step back. That means we make you a member of this advisory council.
I can't hear you.
John Pizzetta?
Hey, Rudy, thanks. Glad you got to finally meet Larry. So I won't drone on about the Stonehouse Group too much. Everyone heard what Larry mentioned at his check-in. So glad to be back for another semester here. Really like the student presentations. I'm gonna have to make myself a sandwich though. Usually we have a nice dinner for these.
We do have and dinner and drinks. That we miss that.
Yeah, well, we could certainly get started with all of that, but happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I know I missed Susan because, Susan, could you introduce yourself? I guess she's still missing in action, huh? All right, did I let's see, did I catch everybody? I went down sequentially on my screen, and the screen is so dynamic, it changed positions. So listen, I am so proud of this group. This is a heavy caliber group. And Andy, we'll be hearing from Andy a little bit in this program. But Andy's been the steward right from day one when he started this, and now he's serving as the chairperson of this group. So looking at the agenda item, I wanted to make this somewhat informal. And I normally kind of solicit feedback on what we could be doing better in these projects. Now that we're in a virtual mode, there are some limitations. Just your thoughts on what you heard today, and what can we do to improve, and what can we do to continue in that direction. Any thoughts?
Rudy, I'll give you some thoughts on that regard, Jim Robinson. Let me see if I can get my video started here. I think we're going to be in a new normal, both everyone in the US and at Lehigh. We're going to have to figure out what the new normal is going to look like after the vaccine is here. I suspect we're going to have more of a hybrid need of both virtual and in person. I think there's going to be a need for as much in person as possible because there's a lot of communication occurs when you're there in person. I think though we will need to accommodate virtual learning and virtual meetings like this, which I think these are about as good as it's going to get virtually. I don't have any suggestions, Rudy, on how to make the virtual much, much better. I think there are inherent limitations with virtual. So my point is, we should not plan on going back to normal with everybody in person, and we should not dwell too much and spend too much resources on improving the virtual capability, because I think it's going to be a hybrid, and we're going to be stretched thin doing both. I think that's all I have, Rudy.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Very astute observations.
Hey, Rudy, Dave Turner, real quick. First of all, I will compliment everybody on making the best of a bad situation with the virtual meetings and everything else. I think they did a good job. The presentations themselves, I thought were well organized and put together. A good discussion of the background and the history of the projects and an overview of some research. What I'm hoping for in the second semester is that we see a little bit more in terms of actually developed deliverables and see how they're progressing the projects further into something that's either useful or operational.
Thank you, David.
Rudy, it's Jim with just a quick comment. One thing I think might be helpful, but the problem is it adds more time, is hearing from the students when they have their initial plan. You know, here's the scope of work they're thinking of for this project before doing a whole lot of work. And I think the committee members might be able to just give some advice, some things that are especially critical, or focus areas where they've been addressed elsewhere. And then have the follow up at the end, like, okay, what did you learn? So more of the beginning and the end type of involvement.
Excellent idea, James. Okay, any other comments, thoughts?
I think that's a great idea, Jim. I'll just add to it that we'll have to check a little bit of our knowledge at the door and let the students do some discovery as well. I would love to be back in this class, taking the time to dig into some of these projects, right, and do them myself.
And what I'm thinking about is if there is research or experience that we know of that we can point the students to, I think that many times can be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good points.
Rudy, just want to mention, great job with the financial piece on these presentations. I can tell that the students are spending a lot more time with the financial acumen part of their assignment. So I thought it was refreshing to see some real numbers and real discussions about finances in these presentations.
Yes, Tony, because they taught to think about technology and the economics, and so they go together these days. And thanks for your direction, because I think you voiced it some time back, and we kind of making sure that they have that bent, when they take on these projects. Any other thoughts or comments?
Rudy, I think I was especially happy to see some discussion of life cycle costs for the entire project. We sometimes end up focusing on what's it take to get started without understanding the implications of finishing a project and retiring a project, like a nuclear plant with spent fuel. But I was glad to hear students talk about life cycle cost and life cycle cost comparison, because I believe in the long run, we're going to need all the resources we've talked about. We're going to need wind, solar, energy storage is going to be a big deal. Ultimately, people will realize we can't get it all done without fossil. And if we have nuclear, which we should have nuclear, right now we don't have technology currently built that can follow load. It's a relatively fixed output platform. But I believe we're going to need every resource we've got in order to reduce CO2. I don't ever see, quite frankly, getting rid of the load following natural combustion turbines because the other technologies are just not mature enough to replace them. But that's my bent on where we are in the transformation to a carbon-free society. We're a long way from that.
Good points. In fact, Thomas Agate's project had gotten so much value speaking with Tina Taylor with EPRI, and she was really instrumental in directing Thomas towards, looking at Pennsylvania. What if we were to nuclearize Pennsylvania? What would be the impact? So that was a good direction to go. Any other thoughts or comments on the project symposium?
We're just really covering progressive topics. I think no one really played it safe with legacy topics or knowns. I think they're really kind of branching out, talking about progressive ideas and energy and utility, distributed resources. And yeah, I think they were just on kind of the forefront, and that's really what ESEI is about. I think that people really embodied that.
Okay.
I think it's also important, Rudy, to note the attendance. I think was a bit higher than we've seen when compared to in person, right? We had a lot more people attend remotely, so let's look at how to take advantage of that in the future.
Good point there, John. In fact, my presentation on progress and what we should be doing next is kind of hits on that point quite a bit. And so definitely attendance was more because people don't have to travel. So we should be leveraging that. So if I may say, a couple of months ago, we had a small working group from this council looking at two things. One was a council charter. We never had a charter. And so we put something together and we've shared this with all of you. And again, it's a kind of a living document. If we need to kind of edit that, if you're comfortable with that, we'd like to have that as a kind of a guidepost, as it were, in how we conduct our business. And the whole idea is to have some of the points you guys raised about being mentors to students, and focusing on special presentations during our seminar series or special lectures, like what Con Ed is going to offer in spring. So the charter, you have a copy of that, and so let me know if you have some comments or you need to add some or subtract something from there. We'd like to kind of go forward with this being a working document, and if it's Rev 0 or Rev 1, that's fine with me, but at least it's a charter that we can all kind of be proud of. The other thing that we shared among the small working group was a recruitment strategy. And kind of some of the points that were brought up in this roundtable was just that, there's a new normal. And we're seeing this in our admissions. For the first time, we had more full-time workers than full-time students. And, it may have been an accident. We're still not up to the level of enrollment that we'd like to be at. And this pandemic did us no favors. And so this recruitment strategy is a white paper. Again, if you want, I can bring it up. Let me see if I can bring it up. Here we go. Can you all see this? And I shared this, as I said, a couple of months ago with some of you, just to get some feedback. And I don't know how I can move this. At least you can see this title which says white paper, right? Oh, there we go. Sorry, here we go. And I'll be talking in some more detail in what is in the white paper in my presentation. Basically, one is to, and the problem statement is the current pandemic has created a unique opportunity. You don't have to read the rest of it, but really it is what John Matranga mentioned, what Jim Robinson mentioned, and a lot of you did it in direct and indirect ways. It's kind of a new normal. What can we do with this? You know, the new normal is giving us a new opportunity where we can bring in people, you know, from outside. They don't have to physically travel. That has its pluses and minuses. And again, the indication in our program, for this cohort was kind of quite revealing. We've never had so many working professional students enroll as we had this past semester. And so we got to thinking about, you know, not just a Master of Engineering in Energy program, but other offshoots that Lehigh has done this before, and, you know, looking at how we could continue. Anyway, I'll talk a little more detail about this, but if you were to look at this in your package of things that Susan sent out, please offer your thoughts and comments. It is a strategy that will have its pluses and minuses. The pluses are, of course, increased enrollment. And the minuses are, you know, how do we look at the lack of in-person? How do we kind of compensate for that? And most importantly, in something like a capstone project where we were working, you know, with industry that we bring to the students, you know, is there another way of handling this, you know, where a working professional could be working on a capstone project at his or her own organization. Truth be known, I got my doctorate almost 40 years ago, working for a startup company where my PhD thesis was what I was working on for the startup company. And that was, so it's very unique those days, you know, that was before internet and everything else. So why can't we look at something like that, you know, for this program? It's a thought. So anyway, the white paper, your homework would be to see, you know, is there something that we're missing there? And see what we can do. So anyway, so we talked about among a small working group. We got the, let me say, the green light to expand our enrollment by seeking working professionals, you know, looking at how would we kind of have the program be more friendly in having such offerings. And that's why not just a Master of Engineering program, maybe a certificate program in energy systems engineering would be appropriate, where that certificate that the student can go on to getting a master's at his or her own pace, as it were. Anyway, any thoughts or questions on the charter, on B, the white paper?
Hey Rudy, this is Scott. I did get a chance to review it, and I kind of like the idea of opening up a couple different options because that'll help increase the head count inside our core courses, which I think will ultimately help grow the program. And I know it's sort of outside of the norm of what we've been used to, but I think it'll help us adapt and change with the times.
Okay. And I kid you not, and every other business is seeing the same thing. You know, there's been a large erosion of revenue at Lehigh, as it is in other universities. And you know, obviously, that's not very good news for any organization, let alone a university. And so, you know, they're strongly looking at these, you know, how could we improve our offerings, you know, make sure that we are still relevant in a day and age where things are moving so fast that we ought not to be just sitting on our laurels and thinking that everything's hunky-dory. Anyway, nothing that we can resolve today, but please, you know, if you have thoughts or ideas on, you know, what can we do in our recruitment strategy that could really benefit, you know, the program, as well as, you know, basically leverage the environment we're in to be able to make this more relevant. I think Andy mentioned something I thought was very useful. You know, the challenges for utilities now are looking into things like decarbonization, you know, the role of nuclear, you know, that's another thing that's been neglected. Looking at carbon capture and storage for fossil fuels. All these are right on the table, and you know, we should be leading the charge in that area.
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah.
Let me just reiterate what Scott said. I agree with the idea of adding other options for participation. Also, two other things. I think the idea of reaching out to companies in the area who may be able to sponsor their own employees to work jointly with the, you know, with the program on a project at their company works out well. I think it should. The other thing is, if you read through kind of the bio of the students that just came in that Susan sent out to us, there is a large bent towards participating in the program so they can learn more about energy, to learn more about becoming carbon free and sustainable and improving the plight of the planet, if you will, over the next 10 years. I think that's in the marketing outreach that goes out. If you're going to try and capture those people between 25 and 35, that's going to be an important aspect of the messaging.
Excellent point, David. Thank you. Very good point.
Yeah, adding to Dave's point is, you know, spinning in the 17 sustainable development goals at the UN, I think is a program that a lot of the younger people will recognize and draw some comfort in, if you can spin that into the story as well. And then again, following up on Dave's the first point, which was a great one, is you know, I sit with the advisory board for Dean DeWorth's group, and one of the things that we're talking about there is continuing to push and transform Lehigh into a living laboratory, a living campus, right, where some of these ideas can come and be piloted on the campus. And while that's not immediately clear how the path to success will be, I think if you come with some ideas to the table with how your company may be able to sponsor a project that would eventually be implemented or implementable at Lehigh in a pilot phase, and use Lehigh as a smart campus and a smart environment, I think that there's a growing appetite for that engagement, either through the joint programs with Mountaintop or experiential learning, and different pieces like that. So, you know, urge the community here not to think of the program in isolation, but think of it as part of Lehigh as well, as a very important part.
Thank you. Good point, John. As a matter of fact, this virtual power plant is a thought that could be applied to Lehigh. And we're talking to some of the folks here. Hopefully we can move the needle there. Okay, so I think the charter, of course, is one, and the recruiting strategy is another. If you have thoughts or comments, please pass it on. And part of the charter is kind of assigning responsibilities in different areas, and I basically just pick some volunteers, and if you wish to add your name to any one of those areas, there's 3 or 4 different areas. Outreach is one, research is another. Please do so. Please send me a note. I'd love to have more participants so that there are some discrete areas of responsibility that we could identify. So,
Rudy, just wanted to throw out one additional thing. So I'm looking at my time back when I was trying to select a college or university, and one of the things that really weighed into that was my experience that I had in classrooms. And one thing something I just wanted to offer out was potentially, if there are prospective students that really wanted to visit the class, I'd be fine with them joining the Zoom call or just coming in person to the T&D course, because we talk about a lot of really cool stuff. That really runs the gamut of smart grid all the way to like how the grid actually works.
And especially the tours that we've had at PP&L have been very, very useful. And at Con Ed, in fact, when we visited your East Station, East River, sorry, was it East River? Yeah. That was such a great learning opportunity. And so we will continue that. So anyway, homework for you guys is, please review the charter and the white paper on recruiting strategy, which I'll kind of emphasize in my presentation. This presentation is like a report, what has happened this fall, what are the pluses, what are the minuses, and what should we take advantage of, what are some of the opportunities there. So all of you can see my screen? All right. So let's see, let me get the pointer going. So every time I don't change any content here, I'm sorry, I don't change any of the outline here, because these are all my KPIs, what is the mission and what's the team? How are we doing in recruitment? How are we doing the outreach? What is the seminar series? How's that coming along? Because we plan to package the seminar series as part of our certificate program, where you can do this for credit. We're finding the seminar series to be really useful to bring in new ideas, dynamic speakers, and we had that occur this semester. Capstone projects, again, that is our showcase. And finally, grants. We can't live without scholarship money that comes through grants. And unfortunately, we need more of that. Perhaps we need to do more in that area. So I'll talk a little bit about what we have done or what we want to be able to accomplish. Again, this is probably not of any surprise to you. This semester, all classes, all interactions were held remotely. There was a very brief period, and I can't remember when during the semester, where they were looking at the possibility of having in-person classes, but that was quickly, that disappeared very quickly. So essentially, we've been doing everything remotely. And actually, this started late spring, went through summer, and all of fall. And so we become somewhat as veterans. And I don't want to kid you, remote teaching, remote learning is a little bit like a TV production. I mean, you cannot pretend that you're just an instructor. You have to also look at, how do you present this in a medium which is somewhat new? And we're learning all the time. And I'd like to improve that, how we deliver content in an age where, you're working with videos and other things that we should be more familiar with, prompts that we should be more familiar with. That had an impact also on our capstone projects. They couldn't be these personal meetings, but nevertheless, I think we did, we had, they were supposed to have at least bi-weekly meetings with their industry project sponsors, and that they did pretty well. And I think it is to the industry project managers who were dedicated enough to be able to make sure that this would succeed. And I kind of take my hats off to them. As I said, the seminars were really important. We were kind of really happy through Andy Coleman. We got a lot of EPRI speakers, and they were able to talk about a lot of these subjects that were kind of in these days, decarbonization. We had a great presentation from Tina Taylor. We had another one from Neva Espinoza, who's her equivalent on the fossil side. We had a terrific presentation on the impact of electricity use and COVID from Omar Siddiq from EPRI. And these were really well attended. We had like 50, 60 people, including industry folks. So really a nice kind of offshoot of what we're going through is these seminars. Again, the attraction was nobody had to travel, so that made it easy to attract speakers and made it easy to attract audience. And we did have 2 field trips, virtual, all virtual, thanks to Scott Thomas. We had one at PP&L in mid-October. And then we had one thanks to Andy's push in the summer classes to have one with PJM, where we learned about what is PJM for? I mean, it's the largest grid operator in the world. And the students got a great view of what do they do? And they learned a lot. So anyway, so even though the circumstances were not that were so unexpected, we made do with what we could do with the medium that we were able to use. Our mission has been the same. It was to produce a new generation of world-class leaders for the energy industry. And truly, from what I've heard from you guys, and it's been reinforced with what I've heard, it's, climate change, decarbonization, how do we get greener? That this responsibility of climate change is real. And that's becoming something that this does make sense. We do need a new generation of world-class leaders for the industry. And I believe our mission statement is still very valid. So the program offerings this is our conventional one that we've offered since day one, a 30 credit Master of Engineering and Energy degree. And we want to buttress this with some things that could be more portable, easier for professional workers to be involved in is a certificate program. And again, the certificate program kind of allows them to either just go with a certificate or utilize that to build up towards a degree. So those options are still open. And the third bullet shows that just a continuing education, where people want to do this at maybe they don't want a degree, but they just want to learn more about energy. And so that's another thing that we would like to be offered through, through our program. So right now, again, to reemphasize, at this point right now, we're only offering Master of Engineering and Energy. The other 2 bullets are something that we're looking forward to in the next semester or so. You know, again, just for reference, the Master of Engineering program is 30 credits. It's 6 core subjects with 4 electives, and the core subjects are taught by industry professionals. Andy, Scott, and myself, you know, form the kind of core subject instructors. We believe that we bring in realism as much as technical knowledge and make them aware of, you know, what are the ground realities to be considered. And this capstone project has been one differentiating factor of this program from other traditional master's programs, because, you know, I believe it prepares them for industry better than does a kind of a regular thesis where they could, you know, come up with a blue sky topic and go at it. That has its own merits. The last bullet shows for full-time students, this is a 10-month program. For part-time students, it's a 2 to 3 year program. And so that kind of discontinuity, if you may want to call it, is something new that we need to prepare ourselves for. A full-time student is literally, it's like boot camp. They stay together for 10 months and leave. If you have full-time workers coming in, you know, it may come in and out. And that's, we're seeing that in our present cohort too. The certificate program, just to compare it with the master's program, they would take 4 core courses and 1 elective. And those 4 core courses would be the ones taught by industry professionals. And we're thinking of packaging our seminar and field trips into a 3-credit elective program, you know, where they can take it as a 3-credit elective. So if one were to go through this, they will also take 10 months to complete, as will a full-time student. A full-time student and a part-time student will now take the same amount of time. And the last bullet shows that the credits that a part-time student uses, they can use that towards getting a Master of Engineering degree if they wish. Again, it's their choice. And this continuing ed is, again, they come in and out at their own pace, and you know, it will count towards a Master of Engineering degree, but the time frame for that could be highly dynamic. It could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It could be any length of time. We have this advisory council, and I forgot to mention, we want to change the name from SAC, Strategic Advisory Council, to Industry Advisory Council, because, well, you guys are with industry. And so we want to acknowledge that. We want to acknowledge the industry exposure, the industry ecosystem that exists in our program. So that's also in the charter, where we want to kind of have a change of name, as it were. We have introduced a bunch of new board members. Lauren couldn't be here. She's on maternity leave. Cheryl couldn't make it. She used to work for Dave till a couple of years ago. And Horace, of course, who joined this semester. So Andy's our chairman, and he's been our leader since day one. So Andy, any things that you want to add to what's happened this year?
Looks good. So I guess in summary, is there going to be an opportunity for everybody to write some of their high level points down, and then we can kind of put it in a big chart, Rudy?
You mean as we speak? Is that your question, Andy?
Yeah, I guess my just general question. I don't need to make any big broad statements right now, but I was wondering if is there going to be like a chart matrix of everything so we could see everybody's comment, or some way to capture the highlights of the highest priority?
Definitely have the minutes, but that won't be dynamic. What we can do is put your thoughts in the chat box, and then, you know, Susan can perhaps you know, go through that and show it to all the audience. That's a good idea.
Okay.
So
Anyway,
if you have some thoughts, go to the chat box. You know, it's one of those buttons right near more. At the very top is a chat, and you can insert your thoughts there. Susan, are you back? Okay. All right. So anyway, if you put something in chat, I'll be able to kind of share this with you guys. These were our project sponsors. You know, but the bigger story is that we want students in our program through your companies, organizations. And that's the idea of having opening it up to professional workers. This way we have an entree into the into industry through you guys. And you know, in fact, we have a student from PP&L, and not only was that good to have, but she's added so much color, as it were, to the discussions in class. So she brings a bunch of realistic expectations of what this knowledge could mean if you were to apply it in her company. And so full-time students, you know, sometimes they benefit with that kind of talk. So the fact that you guys are sponsoring capstone projects is great. We want to get students from your organization who are convinced enough to come to this program. So so hopefully in the next few years, we'll have not only capstone projects, but students, you know, from these organizations. This is a thing that has been troubling for a couple of years now. Although, you know, you can always see a pony in the pile of you-know-what. We had a much better enrollment success than, you know, this year. 8 were admitted, 7 enrolled, which is not bad compared to previous years. But, you know, one other thing that we're doing more forcefully is doing our marketing. And this year, we've been marketing, you know, through LinkedIn campaigns, through informational webinars, and I'm hoping that that will have an impact. By the way, these informational webinars are not only to graduating seniors from other colleges and in Lehigh, but I also shared this with HR of some utilities like PP&L and PICO and Con Ed. And, you know, this way, I've had a number of utility folks come into this informational webinars. So I'm hoping that you know, we never did this marketing before, and so hopefully this could be benefits. We've had a bigger uptick in people who have started applications to our program. No guarantee that they would enroll, but at least they're applying to this program in bigger numbers earlier, let me put it that way. So, you know, the recruitment strategy, again, I've talked a lot about this. You guys have alluded to this. You know, before, this is what we concentrated on, people who just completed undergraduate school. But I think these are also very pertinent, early career working professionals and middle managers. You know, ones who've gotten maybe 8 to 10 years of experience at a utility or with an energy company. They're stepping up in the project management field. You know, they're going away from being just subject matter experts to being able to manage people. And so, you know, maybe they could be interested in a certificate program, you know, that offers project management, kind of an over, you know, like a broad view of, you know, what the energy industry is all about, how regulation works. It's just a thought, you know, we could bring in this kind of content for meeting the needs of middle managers and early career working professionals. Just kind of give you a, you know, what did we do this past semester? The first bullet, we realized that we need to do something different. Strategy to develop to expand ESE offerings to expand recruitment. I mean, it's not only the changing nature of the business, but the changing nature of what we as universities have to do. The second bullet shows that we've been doing this marketing in a way that we haven't done before. These informational webinars have been very useful in that sense. And so we are kind of working with our marketing team in the dean's office to be able to, basically follow who attends and follow up and be able to entice them to be able to come on board. As I said before, we had these 2 virtual field trips. So even though we were in a COVID phase, we did have our field trips with PP&L and PJM. We participated in the EPRI electrification workshop with our sister institute ICPI in October, and our industry partners. In fact, OSI Soft was an industry partner, as was VTA, the Santa Clara transportation folks, I believe. And as I mentioned, we had the ESE seminar, which was, I thought, a great success. Attendance was very strong. This bullet shows that we actually published a paper based on the work that we were doing with intelligent virtual power plants and got Lehigh's name in there and Energy Central. And one of the comments I got from their editor was, well, he was surprised that there was a university that does this kind of work. And I mentioned about our capstone project. So anyway, so we're getting publicity through a organization which has membership all over the world, Energy Central. And the last bullet shows that, we were also successful in getting a contract for ICPI. It was a DOE project on anomaly detection in nuclear plants. How does this help this program? In a very offhanded way, I actually serve as an expert to the Lehigh team, but there could be projects that may arise that could end up being capstone projects for our students. All right, let's see. This is, okay, there we go. I'll skip over this. We had the energy seminar series starting from summer all the way till we have one a week from today. As somebody mentioned about the capstone projects, this has captured the imagination of the younger generation. What's going on at the grid edge to advanced energy communities, which goes by the name of virtual power plants too. So we're kind of looking at projects that attract them. And we've kind of had this as a theme, not to say that we can't look at some bulk generation technologies like nuclear, which is changing quite rapidly too. But our capstone projects kind of look at this range of subject matters. And this is my last slide. As I said, part of our program success requires us that we have scholarships available. And so I get a little bit, I kind of apply for scholarships through our PETA program, which stands for Pennsylvania Innovation Technology Assessment or something along those lines. It's a small amount of money. It's a scholarship that defrays some of the tuition costs, but not all of it. But nevertheless, whatever little we get helps. I also want to point out to some very interesting development. To our international office, we had the Saudi Arabia, KSA is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, by the way. Their Ministry of Energy team talked to us about their vision. And it may be surprising to many, but here's an oil-rich, nation, which is looking at renewables in a very big way. In fact, their strategic energy vision is something very similar to what we could have in the US. They're looking at renewables, they're looking at decarbonization, they're looking at hydrogen economy, all the things that are very current here. And he was really well spoken. The deputy minister for energy, I think that was his title. He was making this presentation. We submitted a proposal, pretty ambitious, over a 3-year period, to have their students come through the energy systems program. So I'm waiting to hear from them. And if we get anything from them, it could be a way by which we could be doing business, not just in the US, but overseas, because more than likely this will be a virtual presence. They could be involved in the certificate program, or they could be involved in a master's program, or a mix of both. But anyway, time will tell, and we should be hearing from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia hopefully early next year. Anyway, so that's a overview of what's happened this semester. Some interesting, exciting things, and some things that are obviously, we're suffering through the worldwide pandemic in ways that you guys are also going through the same pain. Anyway, that was my last slide. And any thoughts or questions? And I see the chat has got about 12 items there.
Rudy, this is Jim. Just a quick reaction to your last point about Saudi Arabia. The only red flag I would throw up there is, and I've been talking to them a little bit and talking to other countries about there's a city, Neom, that's a demonstration city they're building. It's going to be all renewables. There's an incredible amount of controversy around it. So I would say before Lehigh enters into any significant arrangement, just be sure to vet that either way to make sure you're aware of the controversy, political controversies, and other social controversies around some of their projects.
Okay. We have, we offered this as their students coming here, or their working professionals coming here, virtually coming here to Lehigh to go through our program. And I'm working with our international office, Bill Hunter. He works with them quite a bit. And so anyway, I think Lehigh was interested in a broader engagement. And I think that may still have, beyond energy, it could be other areas too, because, their vision is really very, very ambitious. And somewhat of a surprise to many of us who thought, wow, they're not resting on the laurel. They know that oil is going to come to an end and they need to see where do they go next. But anyway, good point. I'm not sure we'll be involved in anything specifically with doing projects there, but it'll be more like us offering their students a degree program or a certificate program.
Understood.
So, there are no other questions on my presentation. Let's see, a lot of things in the chat. Andrew Coleman, if the core courses become a certificate program, it'll raise revenue. Absolutely. I don't want to kind of mislead you. Raising revenue is a big part of our strategy. And, universities, cannot do business the old-fashioned way. If we don't raise revenue, I think it does make it, it'll have some consequences, as it were. Okay. I forgot to add Yards Creek Pumped Hydro Tour to a list of field events. Thank you. Andrew, I forgot that. Sorry about that. Dan says, Dan Chapley, I don't know if you can unmute yourself, Dan, since online access. Dan, can you? Okay. Okay, Dan's comment on the chat was, since online access has become more of an option, the horizon for participants can be expanded substantially, not just the local area, but the world. I forgot to add, one of our students is in Maryland. All right, she didn't make a presentation because she's a full-time working professional. She'll take a project next year, next semester, possibly. Sarah Yeager, that you did hear from today, is a working professional. She's out of Pittsburgh. So we already have that, you know, they're not all Bethlehem bound, you know, they're not locked here. Okay, the suggestion was continuing education. I think the continuing education was something that was going to be offered by Lehigh, so I just hitched my bandwagon to that. You know, if anybody can be involved in continuing education, well, they could just as well come on, you know, enroll in the ESE program. Jim Robinson, you had a comment here.
Yeah, I think that the gist of my comments, Rudy, were for efficiency reasons, I think we ought to concentrate on the 30 credit core courses and what they contain. My thinking would be, as you indicated, the 15 credit hour certificate program may or may not be, the certificate itself may or may not be worth something depending on the company you work for and the industry you're in. But as long as we kept those credit hours, let's say, viable for 6 years, they could apply it toward a master's. I think for efficiency reason, we also ought to consider the continuing ed credits as 3 credit hours at a time, using some of the courses we're talking about, because many people need continuing ed credits for the business they're already in. And to some degree, like professional engineering license, for instance, to some degree, that's valuable to them to get a series of continuing ed credits, which I believe would still be part of the 30 credit hour masters. It seems like an opportunity to gain revenue with not creating a new curriculum. I'm not sure the Institute is ready to create a new curriculum for some of these other revenue streams. It would seem to me we'd be better off leveraging the 30 credit hours or changing the design of the 30 credit hours so that they could use them a piece at a time.
Jim, you're absolutely right. Those 15 credit or 12 or 15 credits certificate were all kind of subsets of courses that you would take in a 30 credit program. And they would be, in fact, the 4 core courses that are taught, you know, so there's no, and there would be no change, as it were. We're not adding anything new course content. Nevertheless, you know, I think there is, you know, I could see a need for new course content, especially in the area of analytics and machine learning. You know, I think that's become very popular, and we don't have a course either offered, you know, through Lehigh or or definitely not to us, that can fit the bill. Although there are some past students of the ESE program who are in this field who have kind of talked to me about, hey, could they develop something along those lines? But that's a possibility. But anyway, the certificate program is really no new content, as it were. It was really, what we normally offer through the 30 credit program.
Rudy, I'm going the next step of thinking about continuing ed credit hours for a professional engineering license, whether you want to include that as part of the plan and a paid activity that would help a revenue stream while giving them continuing ed credit hours. I do not know whether that applies to teachers and their continuing ed requirements, but we could dream about what would be the revenue stream be like for professional engineering credits. It may not be worth doing because the revenue stream might be too low, but that's food for thought.
Yeah, good idea. I've taken it down. Let's see, there are some more. Here's a good one from Dave Turner. Many MBA programs offer weekend options for part-time students. Is that an option? Dave, you must have been reading my mind.
Let me be clear, though. I'm not volunteering to come teach on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I got my executive MBA through one of these weekend programs, where you either came on a Friday or a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that I think the pushback would come from the college about, hey, we don't work weekends.
I agree.
But I don't see why we shouldn't be looking at this. Yeah. Especially the certificate program. I think if they were to come in 8-hour stretches on a Friday or a Saturday, that could fit the bill. They come one day a week.
I know my son just graduated from the Carnegie Mellon MBA program, and there was a weekend option that, geez, a couple Pittsburgh Steelers were involved in, that type of stuff.
Yeah. No, this is a good idea.
Yeah, and even mixed in with a hybrid environment. I've known people that have literally crossed the country to attend weekend MBA programs. Executives at different different institutions crossing to come to, go out to the West Coast or come to Boston or come to New York or the East Coast. So something to consider, certainly.
Offer the 30 credit program for part-time students from Jim. Actually, they do. Our part-time students are right now. There's only one choice they have, is come to our 30 credit program. And we do have, as I said, this semester, they outnumber our full-time students. There are 4 part-time students who will come in this semester. This new academic year, I should say.
Yeah, let's give this too, Rudy. I know Lehigh does have an MBA program. Many of the programs now have MBA programs have energy concentrations.
Mm-hmm.
Talk with partnering with them at all?
Yeah, in some ways, I like to think that we do that better in our program.
Gotcha.
We look at energy case studies that, and they learn a lot. In fact, here's another case where having industry folks be involved in case studies, gives insights to full-time students fresh out of school on things they may not hear normally, if they had a cohort of full-time students. We had a case, we did a business case study on American Electric Power and how they were trying to get renewables, how much pushback they got from you know, internally and externally, and how they managed to come out of that. In fact, Scott Thomas does some case studies in his class. So Scott, you want to share that with the council?
Yeah, we actually got a chance to talk about the 2003 blackout, and it really covered a lot of different business aspects. I actually got my MBA from Lehigh as well, and I really tried to formulate it based on some of the things I took away from the MBA program to sort of bring in that business aspect. And the students took to it pretty well. You know, it's a different perspective and a different mindset. So I think I'm going to prep them a little bit more in the spring semester coming up. But I think they took a lot away from the discussion as well as the written assignment.
Cool.
Hey, Susan had an emergency, and so that's why she was not, she couldn't talk. And so Susan is back. So Susan, I hope everything went off okay.
I'm back. Yes, thank you.
So let's see, am I missing anything that is in the chat box? Yeah, Scott mentioned offer prospective students to sit in one of our core courses. We had undergraduate students in the past who would sit in because there was no other course taught on energy generation, for example. I think, Scott, you'll be getting as undergraduate student who will be participating in your T&D course. She's not a part of our program.
If Scott's talking about recruitment, Rudy, that's one thing that when we were in person, that's one thing that TE did was they would set up almost like a half a day agenda. I would set up a half a day agenda for a prospective student, and part of that was going to lunch with the current students, and then also sitting in on one of the classes that wasn't like it wasn't proprietary or anything. Just to get the feel of the class, and that it really kind of nudged a lot of the students to signing up for the program. So just a thought.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm going for. A lot of the athletic programs also do that, just to give people a taste of the college experience or the learning experience.
Very interesting comment from Andrew. I think we should look at Lehigh as a connected community and determine the highlights of what that means from electrification and decarbonization.
All I was saying there is that somehow thematically we've got to get, I think students are attracted to programs that have one, simply money. Like students want to be part of something bigger than they are. But maybe the answer is I'm just putting out an idea, but I'm saying maybe the answer is adopting, you know, the utilities. You know, Lehigh is supposed to be thought leadership, but there's also things that we can do to inform, let's say it's Con Ed, PPL, PICO's outlook on, you know, what the industry is going for, but maybe filling in some of the gaps in the roadmaps would be an attractive feature that where students can get integrated. I think we need to figure out a way where the students are attracted to a program. Yeah, lots of MBA students are attracted to schools and what they stand for and, you know, their name brands. But if we don't have like the shingle out there that says this is our philosophy, I think that's a place where students don't have a choice as to why they would like to attend versus another school. So I think that's very important. It doesn't necessarily need to be a grant, but maybe it's gaps in our collective utility community where that we're filling in. And maybe that's an attractive spot where they'd like to make their entrance into the academic world.
Yeah. Absolutely. If they feel connected, I mean, there's so much more they're so inspired. Good point.
Hey, Rudy, this is Al. I'm curious if we offered these courses and promoted them as continuing education, are we going to be cost competitive with other options out there? I mean, there are probably courses that are a lot more intense, but if it's only for continuing education to, let's say, to keep your PE, your professional engineer's license up to date, there's a lot of other courses out there, including resources from IEEE that are free. And I'm wondering, would we be looking for some target audience in that group with these type of courses as continuing education? Or would we be kind of designing them as something that no one else is offering in that space?
That's a good point, Al. What I was looking at was Lehigh wants to offer continuing education. Apparently there weren't. And I thought, well, hey, if somebody wants to learn more about energy, whether they're working in an energy field or not, they could use that as an option towards getting a degree eventually. It may not be in 2 years, may not be in 10 months, definitely not in 10 months.
Right.
And you said something about fees, tuition fees, in the first part of your.
Yeah, in other words, the amount that the people would pay for a couple of continuing education credits here would far exceed what you would have to pay to get credits at IEEE, for instance. It'd be much more expensive here. But like I said, the benefit here is what you said. It's the ability to convert them into a degree down the line. I don't know if there's any market research on how much of that is out there, but it would be nice to have that in your pocket.
Yeah. The market I was looking at, Al, was professional workers who get educational money from their organizations. In fact, that's plainly put, that's one of the more attractive reasons getting professional workers. I mean, there's no doubt they add to the cohort knowledge. In a class where you have full-time students and part-time students, I think there's a good chemistry. They can talk about in-person experience that the student fresh out of undergraduate school may not be able to appreciate if he or she were in a classroom full of undergraduate students. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that we could attract students who are not encumbered by financial needs or scholarship, makes our job a lot easier. And that's one thing that I see which may address why we have more professional workers is I think the pandemic brought that to a head. They said, well, I got educational money I can access. I want to advance myself. So in fact, one of the students is a financial guy with JP Morgan. And why energy? Because they do a lot of investment in energy and he wants to take a crack at that. And for his clients, of course. Let's see, there anything else new here? I'm just looking through all the chat. Adding more software aspect related to the core energy component in the curricula could attract more students. This is from Alberto. There's no doubt about it, Alberto. skill sets, Python, R squared, it's becoming a hot commodity. I don't know whether our program should look at that, or we should work with the computer science folks, because they're probably more adept at these languages. We would like to kind of give it a practical bent. How is it utilized for energy applications? That could be.
Rudy, if I can just add on top of that, the messages I see in the industry, the willing for coder software coming from IT to get into the energy. So the same guy that from PJ Morgan just went to getting the master to understand more, insight about energy. I see that the convergence between software and energy. It's kind of the future also for software people that may want to understand more about the energy domain so they can apply their skills. And it's not about a single soft energy, which is, I agree, is part of the computing, is more about how architecture and or how the grid edge can interact with the grid and all the new technology that can be then applied to the, as we say, to a real project, maybe into the campus, as John was mentioning before. So I think that's the part that we are missing when we work with the students. More are like energy focus, but these days I think that energy is requiring more and more software skills. So it's maybe something that you want to add to the curriculum, so you can attract more talent from the software world.
Yes, convergence of energy, OT, and IT, those have been fighting words, Alberto, in our utility industry for many years, if not decades. Now it's becoming more common. They say a data scientist in the energy business could basically write his or her own ticket. But very good point.
And maybe, Rudy, you could kind of combine it into more of a survey kind of situation, right? We're not going to make them experts in this, but like my daughter is just going to take a class that's AI for everyone.
Yes.
Right. So it's an introduction to AI, but if you look at the syllabus, it's everything from the basics all the way through to CNNs and all these different topics that as somebody who is graduating college, just having that broad breadth of what it is and what it means, and then you say, oh, I have a problem. Let me go talk to somebody about this because they're going to be the expert. But based on my business knowledge, I feel like there's an opportunity here, right? And then you bring that interdisciplinary component into the conversation, right? So I would think about keeping it, or think about something that could be maybe a set of guest lectures from the CS department that keeps it at that kind of high level.
Absolutely, John. I mean, this AI for everyone. I actually attended one. I think it's by Mark Cuban. I think he sponsors it. I believe AI for everyone. And I actually attended that. It's all free. It's fun, And I totally agree. I think having something on a conversational level, having speakers who could talk about this, they can definitely will stir interest. No doubt about that.
Rudy, I think one of these things about software is there are many aspects of the energy system that are control related and market related that to some extent, if we open the student's mind how big that industry is, Pi is an excellent example of that. Without Pi, we would not be able to do hardly anything in many of these companies because that was the key breakthrough that allowed the data to get through the firewall to many of these other software products. So I think a higher level look, not just at the components, like wind turbines and generation projects, but system control and market support through software, AI included, is a worthy introduction for students to think broader and not so narrow.
No, all very good points. I think, as you guys were talking, I was thinking that maybe one semester we could have an energy seminar series which just looks at AI and energy. What are the applications? How has it worked? Because I think we have enough examples of it being applied now. I think we're coming towards the end, guys, and I really appreciate the support and just the caliber of the advisory council. I'll be leaning on you guys more now, especially as we try out these new things. Some of them are going to work, some of them may not work. But definitely, the charter makes it clear that we want you to help us out, no doubt about it. And we need to expand first our recruitment strategy. And I'm, by no means is what we have written down the end all of it. I want to hear more thoughts about, what you think we ought to be doing and what can work and what will not work. But I really appreciate your assistance. And, especially your mentoring to all the students has been of great value. So, Andy, you want to say anything at the end before we adjourn?
No, I think this is a really good meeting, and Rudy, I'll be happy to work with you on, when you get all the comments in, and but I think a lot of a lot of the input is great. This is very helpful, and I guess the last question I would have, Rudy, and for you is, what's the tenor of the university with regard to its long-term outlook on electricity and energy? And I know that, could you update the group as to what's going on with the president search and also the search with regard to the dean? And that would just give everybody kind of a flavor for the change that's afoot at Upry. I mean, at Lehigh.
Yeah, so as Andrew mentioned, we're looking for a new president. The current president, John Simon, is retiring or resigning. He wants to go back to full-time teaching, away from an administrative job. And so we are looking, we also got a new vice provost. So, provost. I think he's provost, yeah. John Urban, yeah. So the two top people will be totally new. And so the search is on for a president, and, rightfully, the entire the entire organization, entire university is looking for inputs on what are we looking for in a new president. And the thing that has surfaced a lot is diversity and equity. And that's one of the big items that has surfaced as far as a search parameter. And, I know the provost, apparently he's a big champion of the master of practice programs like what we have. But I personally have not talked to him. And, he's probably busy with putting out so many fires right now.
So do you think we could have the provost or the new dean talk to us at some time in the springtime?
I think having the dean talk to us would be easier. First of all, we have a hook through John Matranga, who's on the Dean's Council. You know, his, you know, if I can summarize, I think right now he's looking for, are these programs sustainable? Okay. And sustainable means, are they solvent? You know, am I having more revenue than my expenses? You know, that's going to be, you know, it's like a business now. I mean, in a good way, I believe. I'm not saying this disparagingly at all.
Yeah, and to add to what Rudy was just pointing out, and that's why I brought up this idea about the engagement of the capstone projects back into Lehigh, because typically that's going to be something that'll bring some funds into the conversation as well, but also not only engages the students in something that's interesting and builds the Lehigh community, but also, you know, weaves this program into the fabric of Lehigh, right? It's not just sitting out here as a beacon of light, but
Yeah.
it's integrated into the complete fabric, right? So that's why I urge everybody to think creatively of ideas about how your resources that you have may be of value to Lehigh at large as funneled through this program, right?
I think that's a really good comment. I think if we had like, last thing I'll say is if we had a bunch of projects that could be hung on the website for students to apply to, like if they're applying for a job, I think that would attract students to the program. If there were ready, shovel-ready projects that they could just say, I'm going to apply to this. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe if the power companies want to offer some projects that they would like solved, I think that might be a good way to attract students. So, John, you know, if you had one, I can certainly drum up a few, but maybe Scott can, you know, caucus with his team at PPL. Maybe, you know, if it just really takes bandwidth. We saw today the one presentation by Sarah, and I could tell that, you know, the direction was probably compromised with the wind company, because she did a really good job, very good detailed job overview, and learned a lot on her own, but there was no problem real solved. You know, a specific problem wasn't solved. So I think if the students have a problem that they look towards solving, I think you'll get more applicants, Rudy.
True.
Yeah, I like that. And I like that. The other thing that I'll add to that is it may be as simple as just moving up the timeline of, you know, firming up these projects, right? So if you can move it up so that they're not just in time for the students who are already accepted into the program to look at them, but give a runway so that it attracts students into the program, like Andy was saying, I think that might bring some value as well.
No, absolutely.
Maybe even make it rolling admissions, right? When you know what you have, get it up onto a website so people can see the kinds of things that they would be engaged with.
No, totally in agreement there, John. You know, if all parts of the system need to have an urgency, a fierce urgency, you know, that includes legal counsel. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
I just got through a project with a utility. The project was 4.5 months in legal and 4.5 weeks to do.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. You know, you should expect from us, first of all, a meeting minutes, and I promise you we'll have this out before the end of the week or early next week. All right? And so you have a copy of the meeting minutes from last time we met, and surprisingly enough, or not so surprisingly, recruitment was a big topic last time we met, and so it is a big topic this time too. But I'm definitely going to take all the comments and thoughts and put them in the meeting minutes. And I want to thank Susan for really, she has 2 jobs. We're sharing Susan, and the ability for her to send all this material out in a timely manner, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Susan.
You're most welcome, Rudy. I enjoy working for Energy Systems.
All right. All right, if there are no other questions, guys, thank you for your attention. It's been a long day. I know that some of you have been right from the get-go. And, definitely I'm all ears, eyes for your help to go forward.
Thank you. Nice job, Rudy.
All right, thanks a lot,
All right,
guys.
Rudy, nice work.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Rudy.
All right,
Rudy.
thank you,
Take care,
guys.
folks. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Welcome aboard, Horace.
Happy to be aboard.